say that it feels right.
What's up, guys? It's the Blender, and today we are back with part 2 of our Oathbreaker Paladin with Hexblade Dip. Though technically we're playing it as Vengeance Paladin till the end of Act 2. So you could, I guess, call it a Vengeance Paladin with a Hexblade Dip. We'll basically be pushing Paladin all the way till we get 8 in Paladin, so till level 9 overall, since we took the early 1-level dip in Hexblade. And without further ado, let's just kind of get into it. We left off as we got to the Emerald Grove, and we're going to continue from there. We're going to enter the Grove, go talk to Aridin and Zevlor. I like to just tell them to tell me where my money is. Doesn't matter if I pass the check or not. Aridin will get mad and he'll punch Zevlor out. This is basically the way that I do it, so that Zevlor always gets knocked out. And if I need to or want to, I can steal the Hellrider gloves. Since we got the guidance neck in the previous episode, this sort of makes this easier, right? We get a +1 to sleight of hand from the gloves of power, and we get the guidance neck. It just makes it easier for us to do any thievery that we need to. And we're gonna, you could do this, like I said, you could steal from Zevlor. I don't think I'd take much, if anything. Yeah.
Cheap shot. This attack will only strengthen them.
This has been, this is like run number, 10 or something like that, on my attempts to, sort of fine tune this build during its early levels and whatnot, and, I'm a habitual stealer of everything, where I've got to collect everything and then I toss it all in the camp and everything sits in the camp. I think eventually I end up doing a bunch of that anyway, but unnecessary. Also, coming up here is not necessary, right? And talking to Arca, the moment you move past and you head down the path a ways towards the trader, they'll trigger and do this anyway. You have the option to do some insidious stuff, I guess, or incite violence, but like I showed there, right? I didn't choose any violent options or anything like that, but talking to them didn't give me any XP. So going up on that section early is not necessary. You don't have to make that loop. In future runs, I'll talk to Aridin and just continue along, because talking to her doesn't actually help me with anything. Here we, because we have the one Hexblade dip, we're able to go ahead and do our trader shenanigans early and start acquiring items that we think we might need. And like I said, we're being pretty picky, because we only want scrolls. We don't want DPS scrolls. We only want buff scrolls. And we'll take some of the arrows and other things like that. And apparently all of their gold. And we'll do this to all 3 traders. We basically do this in a loop. We'll go from him to Anti-Ethel to Damon, talking to Roland along the way. We get basically an automatic win here by being a paladin. Barbarian, I think, also gets one. Ranger goes the other way, where they're I'd prefer the woods, etc. You don't want to do that. Well, maybe you do, but I don't, because I want the tieflings to live, right? Because I want Damon to be in Act 2. I want, Alfira potentially, right? Especially since we are a charisma-based character. We don't use the potent robes on this character, because that's not how we designed him and built him. But if you were playing in a party or something like that and you wanted to, I would hate to remove that option in your run. Or if you want, or if at any point in time you got bored and you wanted to do that, or you wanted to scale some sort of cantrip damage or spell damage, right? Or if you wanted to do actual casting of scrolls, like DPS scrolls, then you would also potentially want that. Here we're going to talk to Ethel. She's our Hill Giant potion. We do start with Hill Giant potions because they're basically the most effective way to gain hit rating and damage in the early levels. But we eventually, because we are a charisma-based character, and well, even our melee is supposed to scale off of charisma, which is why we take the Hexblade dip, right? Like, we'll be able to do that, right? In a D&D sort of scenario, I would take this Hexblade dip for mechanically, you would probably take this Hexblade dip early, similar to the way we did. But thematically, I could see a world where you sort of like did dexterity-based things, right? And were just a defensive paladin, but then you'd end up you're 8 levels of paladin, and that can get pretty daunting, right? Like most D&D campaigns probably aren't getting to let you finish that out and finally get the warlock and let the warlock realize itself, right, and become the Oathbreaker and do those things. So you'd be pretty weak overall. So if you're not going to have a long-term campaign, right, or you're not going to get into later levels, right, like you want the Hexblade dip early so that you can utilize your charisma as your combat stat. Here in BG3, we do it for originally for the combat stat, but once you have access to the Hill Giant Strength potion, right, like you no longer need the charisma for the combat stat. So it is entirely viable to, if you have all the money, right, or you don't want to worry about doing trader shenanigans or whatnot, to just push this in paladin levels, and in fact it's arguably better earlier because you get access to smite earlier, and then there are certain fights like we delay and go acquire a bunch of other XP to make sure that we get level 6 in order to get level 5 paladin for the extra attack. If you just went straight paladin at that same and did that same route and got that level 6, you would have extra attack and you'd have the charisma bump. So fights like Anti-Ethel, right, because you have the aura of courage, right, fights like Anti-Ethel become significantly less scary because you have a +3 to all your saving throws, right? And so those can be pretty big for helping certain fights or to survive certain fights and that have saving throws involved. So it's kind of up to you, right? Going full paladin is stronger, but I like to try and minimize my respecs. In fact, I don't think I ever respec this character. Yeah, I don't think I respect this character at all during this run. If you notice, we picked up the shield from Damon, which gives us the +1 to our saving throws, and I believe we managed to pick up a +1 quarterstaff. This is the ideal buy if we didn't do the tomb, the second part of the tomb, the inside of the tomb where the skeletons were from before. But since we had the fire arrow and we were able to do that, we didn't need to specifically purchase the fire arrow, but we also don't necessarily need to have the +1 attack on our bludgeoning weapon. I like the quarterstaff because it's basically like a bludgeon version of spear, and so having a +1 quarterstaff basically allows us to utilize the polearm master feat when we do get level 5 or 4 in paladin. As we will be going polearm master rather than any of the great weapon masters, and we'll be maintaining our shield. So this character should be much more tanky than a great weapon master type character, but his DPS output will be significantly mitigated, if you will. He won't have great weapon master as his piece, right? And since great weapon master gives some bonus actions when you kill somebody and also makes you hit hard, and if you pulled the astral sword off of boss early, you could really trivialize a lot of things with the +3 sword, have really, really good hit rating, utilize strength, and instead of charisma, or even swap it over to charisma. But you could really break Act 1 by having a +3 sword with 21 strength automatically, right? And then go around smacking things with Great Weapon Master. Especially with like Vengeance Paladin, if you can give yourself, automatic advantage by putting Vow of Enmity on yourself, right? Like you can really crank things out with Great Weapon Master. So arguably we're less powerful. However, because we're going Polar Master, we're doing smaller amounts of damage, right? We don't have the plus 10 when on our hits, but we also hit more often. We don't take the -5, right? So when we have advantage, we have a significantly higher hit rate than he does, and we always get 3 attacks per turn because we can always use our bonus action to do it. It means that we sort of become bonus action starved, where we have so many things that can use our bonus action. But in the event that we would use our bonus action, like let's say Great Weapon Master, they crit, they sort of go, oh, I have to use my bonus action as damage, right? Because I got the proc, so I need to do it, right? I don't have a guarantee that I'll get the proc next time, right? And if they don't use it, they sort of feel like they've lost out. We don't have that problem because every time we swing our weapon, we get to use our bonus action as another attack. So that's sort of the benefit of Polar Master that we're going for.
A few questions, if you...
Key things here that we just did. We did the loop. We got some exploration XP up near Zevlorg by going upstairs and going to the chest. Get some exploration XP for like finding the Risen Road and whatnot. And then we loot the vendors again, or the third vendor in that loop for the second time. Our money should be good. We reset our oath because we got the money. And now we're buying the Whispering Promise because it's one of the best Act 1 rings. Gives us the Bless function. I even pick up raspberries for it so that we can do it out of combat, but then I never actually do it, so I'm just silly, apparently. And we made sure to get the Deflect Gauntlets because we prefer those in multi-target fights, right? So, Gloves of Power for one-on-one, so that we're applying Bane to the enemy, and we want the Deflect Gauntlets for anything that has multiple enemies. Here we pick up the Amulet of Sylvanas. This is specifically, I think the only time we actually use it is so that we can cure the paralysis of the Tiefling Crate Guard. Go get that chest. It sometimes has some other things. It can have useful stuff in it. I think it only had like gold this time. Nothing super crazy. Now we're gonna go feed a bear fish. If you didn't pick up, I picked a fish up on the beach. I generally do. But if at some point you get out here and you didn't, the bear that's down at the river is always tossing fish. You just wait for him to toss it out, and then pick one up. And then here, you throw the fish, you get 15 XP, and then we're going to loot this. This is a decently high-level chest. If you can pickpocket it, we don't have a whole bunch of lockpicks, or lockpick it. We don't have a bunch of lockpicks at this point in the game, but we'll give it a couple tries. And unfortunately, not really worth it for us. We do get the poison, and poisons are okay. They're decent to put on your weapons, but once you have enough oil of accuracies to sort of like sustain your like use that on every fight, I would never go back to poison. I would always prefer to make sure to hit my target than to give it a delayed, 2 or 4 damage that it can save from.
I'm sorry.
Here, common misconception is that you can fail this, right? You can bust this with, Dark Urge and telling her to run. But if you want to save Arabella, you'd never have to actually pass the speech check. I did here, but as long as you choose, I thought, the druid's, cherished nature, whether you pass that speech check or not, you'll have a secondary option. If you're non-origin, I believe you can just hit 1 through the whole thing. But the option is to say, Do you really want your snake is prepared to kill this child? Do you really want her death on your hands? Yeah, or whatever that line is. If you choose that line, regardless of whether you pass the previous speech check, she'll see wisdom in your words and let the tiefling go, and you save Arabella. So if you're interested in saving Arabella, you don't ever have to worry about the speech check. Pass it, don't pass it. I would never use inspiration for it or anything like that. But on Dark Urge, you have to be careful, because if you spam one like you would with, a non-origin character or a different origin character that doesn't have terrible options, right? Then you might flick your eyes, tell her to run, and the snake kills her, and then you've lost Arabella. Arabella is important for a couple of different things. Mainly Shadow Ring in later game, in the Act 2. If you want to do it, we don't use it on this character because it's not it won't fit our Polearm Master setup. However, she's also one of the ways that we get to access Mole, right, for the Ring of Protection, right? So you basically have to defend one of the kids, right? There's like 3 different things. You can either save Murkon, you can save Arabella, or there's another kid that pickpockets, like Barth. If Barth lives through the thing, and those guys jump in here. Here I did I ripped the bird's wings, seeing if I could get inspiration off of it for the Dark Urge playthrough, and I ripped its wings off and broke my oath, so that's going to cost me extra gold. But yeah, so the third option is there's a bluish colored tiefling that steals a locket from Barth, right? If they live and if the mercenaries at the Grove fight live and they stay inside the Grove, right? If they don't, then you don't have that option and you only have the 2. So I always save Arabella just so I can finish this, and on my second route through here I can go talk to Mole, and she'll be happy to basically start the quest with the Ring of Protection. If you stop the ritual before talking to Mole, she won't, and her asking you to steal the idol, you lock yourself out of the quest. She won't have the quest because the ritual's done already.
Breathe deep and move. I shall be here.
Here, what are we doing here? Oh, we're going through his dialogue. That's pretty easy. We just say that's powerful for skeleton. Why is it so easy for you, etc.
You may, if you believe your oath.
Fix our oath again, because we ripped the wings off the bird. And now, at level 3, we should be able to take the bugbear, especially with smites. And I think that should be where we go from here. Yep. Good. Now, I like to come from the top side to surprise the bugbear. I find it easier. We can get up into this crook here without triggering him. If we're already crouched, it's easier. You could light a candle and oil your weapon or something like that here. But like I said, I don't have the candle, and I still haven't gone back. I've gone back to camp and still haven't put it in my inventory, so I'm a goober. And we're gonna go ahead and use that poison, because we don't have oil of accuracy, and we don't want to waste a wyvern poison, and we'll pop him. And now we get a little preview of what combat sort of feels like on this character. He's very tanky and just sort of built there. Here I recognize that I didn't set up my spells after I got level 2 Paladin. I still have this darned weird smite, and rather than Shield of Faith, so I can't increase my AC again. I get unlucky with the thing. I get unlucky with my booming blade, but I want him to run towards me. He misses, thank God. And then here I get booming blade, and we're just gonna push him again. but he dies to the fall damage, so easy peasy. Paladin's also got an auto win on this as well.
One day I'll catch a break.
And then we should come down here. Doesn't matter if we pass the perception checks. If you know where these are, you see here, I didn't pass the perception check. I'm still able to dig it. Put the shovel on somewhere on your hotbar, on your custom hotbar, and you can just manually dig in an area where you know where it is, or if there's a perception check that you think is a dug area, right? You can do that. If you dig anywhere that you're not supposed to, it says no use digging here. If you did that around in a circle, you eventually find it. So you can kind of like, almost like magnet fish your way, or what's that thing where they use the magnets on the beach, right? Like you could do something like that with a shovel. Find yourself some treasure. Here, I think I make a misplay. I went and saved Arabella specifically so that I could talk to Maul. Right? We're talking Gwex, so not necessarily. I think we get a little XP for this. We're really just after the XP for the conversation option. We go down to Saza. I don't save Saza. I know some people do. I believe it also breaks your oath. And I don't want to pay for another broken oath anyway. But I don't generally care about Saza in taking her back to the grove. I don't generally have a conversation with Mathara before I'm ready to knock her out. So here I try to, I'm okay with passing the speech check with Arca, but it didn't work, so.
Move.
There we go. Got the intimidation, and we do that. And now we're just going to leave Saza in the cage. Right? We're not going to free her or anything like that. Make sure we have guidance on so that we can, have the best chance to pass this perception check. And I like to come in here, crouched, and go ahead and turn this statue off so that when the fight does break out, right, we don't have to worry about the bear side. So this basically just becomes a free area. Now we will engage the fight from the other side, so typically we wouldn't be in there in bear range, but I'll need it off when we go to loot that area anyway. So I like to just be thorough and turn it off there. We'll get into this pouch, and then this is the Tiefling Guard. Oh yeah, I thought that was a imp wing, but then I realized I need the other sublimates and other things for alchemy to make alchemy. Anyway, here I'm making blunders anyway because I'm like, I'll put the restore on, but then I have remembered I have to pass some speech checks first, so
it would be too easy to do away with that.
we put the insight or put the guidance necklace back on so we can do that.
Bloody potion.
Now we just tell her it was a dodgy brew, tell her we're a paladin, we can heal her, she'll say okay, we'll say hold still, we can swap our pendant, and now we have access to the lesser restoration, which we would have to normally wait until we had level 2 spells for, and now she's not paralyzed. We don't need anything in here. Stealing out of here is just, you get some basic poisons, and we're not worried about that. Now here's my mistake. I'll jump back here and move on. I should have gone and talked to Mole. I should have jumped off the roof, gone and talked to Mole, started the quest. Thank God I remember that I haven't talked to Mole before I get the Kaga confrontation done. I'm so glad that I did, because otherwise I probably would have redone the run. Because you only have one ring of protection. If there were other ways to get rings of protection, it would be nice. But I understand that it gives weight to the decisions that are made in the game, but it does sort of, for like any like min-maxers or something like that, like if you have a specific type of character you're going for, like I do, right? I have basically opted in and intentionally locked myself behind certain pieces of gear, right? Like I have to get the Shar Spear of Evening for this character, right? Which means I don't have a choice. I can't, you know, I can't kill Shadowheart. I can't sacrifice Shadowheart to Buol, right? Because I need her in Act 2. I have to have the conversation with Mole, you know, and get the Ring of Protection. So I have to get that in Act 1. Otherwise, I don't have that access, and I don't have access to that specific ring, and that becomes a problem. So, I do wish there was some way to sort of like alleviate that and make it a little easier for gearing, so that you had more options. But I do also understand that like those rewards being tied behind those options are part of what make them weighty.
I don't need any attention
So
right now. Something good here, I hope.
here we're just sort of scavenging these. They have a decent chance to have some good stuff in them, and we get pretty lucky. Only one of them had stuff we didn't need. And now I believe we want to group them up with Minor Illusion. If we had Cloud of Daggers, right? If you're a spellcaster, Cloud of Daggers is huge for most fights like this. If you can get in, like I would walk up to the edge and then Cloud of Daggers, but since we're here, we don't need to. But up here, we're just gonna try and take out the Sharp Eye, which I believe she's got some health left. One of the guys died. And we got her before, or on intro. But yeah, like if you had Cloud of Daggers, right, you want to make sure to start off from stealth and whatnot, but you could open that up, and they'll take damage when you put it on them, and then they'll also take damage at the start of their turn. If you can create a surprise round by starting from stealth, being like out of the line of sight where they have to like discover you as you did it, right, and whatnot, and cast Cloud of Daggers, you get, I think it's basically like 3 turns or worth of damage, because like it happens when you put it down, it happens when their round starts, which they're surprised, so they won't move, and then it happens again when their round starts again. You can Minor Illusion, stealth casted Cloud of Daggers can carry an early game so hard. But we don't have that with our setup, so we just use a fire arrow, and we're going to basically allow them to come to us, and then beat them down with our high AC and a little big stick. Booming Blade and Push is sort of like our early game before we have a weapon attack attached to our bonus action. We can push, because that means that they'll have to run towards us, which will activate the Booming Blade. In this case, we managed to shoot him, so no problem here. Now, after we're done looting these gobos, we want to jump across. We're going to jump across, turn that totem off, that totem guardian off, the wolf one. And then on the body next to it, we're going to pick up the charred key. That's what anything else useful, but we're specifically looking for the charred key. And the reason for this is because if you have the key to a chest, it doesn't seem to matter if it's armed or not. And this is uniquely, this also applies to the chest down in the Zentarum outpost in the back. So I'm not sure if that's 100% all the time logic or whatnot, but by having the charred key, we're able to go up to the chest up here that does have the trap on it, right? And even though it's surrounded by, you know, oil barrels and would run end you if you click on it without being able to bypass the trap. You either have to disarm the trap, move the chest into a safe place, and then try to interact with it to pop the trap, or if you have the key, you can just forcibly make yourself open it rather than try to lockpick it or anything like that. If you have the key, you just open it right away. The trap doesn't go off, and you move on about your business. Here you see that I got the trap. I can see it, but rather than disarm it, I just open it. And I'm opening it right next to those barrels there with full confidence. The other thing that does, the reason we want this is because it is 200 gold to sell, right? It keeps pace with the gold wormling staff. I think I eventually replace it with the gold wormling staff, but I don't need to because I'm not using it. The gold wormling is a +1, so the gold wormling is a better option. However, it's on fire, and for whatever reason, fire enchantments on weapons make them not able to be applied with oils, which I guess makes sense that an oil would be incinerated by fire. But like if I infuse it with lightning, I can still apply an oil of accuracy. If I provide it with envenom, well, envenom or poison will override like oil of accuracy or anything like that. So
People up ahead. Something's wrong.
there's that. But if the target is if the weapon is already a burning weapon, or is on fire, such as the gold wormling or the everburn, they are not able to have oils or things applied to them to increase their stuff. You can magically enhance them, but you can't apply oils, can't apply poisons, etc. When here, I believe I choose violence here, rather than have them show up and mess with my owlbear fight. Right? We just murder her and then murder him. They'd both die anyway. This way we get the XP. Don't have to have a conversation with them. Don't have to convince them to go hunt down the owlbear or anything like that. We just get them out of the way as quickly as possible. Nothing super big about this fight. She's pretty easy to range down. Better if you don't miss. Also better if you get a double, surprise. Her command can be annoying. She'll tell you like halt and then you won't do anything. You'll just stand there. I don't think she ever used grovel, right? So it's not too bad. Here where he's easy to push. So we're gonna do the booming blade and run strategy. Unfortunately, we don't have enough movement speed to sort of like always get on top of her. So she gets a lot more movement than we'd ideally like to have her.
Have to keep going.
But now she's sort of stuck with us. We can save our reaction and make sure that we're gonna, we use it to smack her specifically, regardless of what happens with him. And then we just want to focus her down because she's the healer. I don't know why I targeted him. Now I'm sort of trying to like rectify that and find ways to do it. I'm gonna try and push her into the entangle for the disadvantage, or on her attacks and advantage on mine. That didn't work. She managed to resist it, so now I had to do this an extra round. I think I tried to just kill him because he's low health, but he has a higher AC. I think he has a higher AC than she does, which is annoying. I finally get the push that I wanted. However, she saves from the entangle, so I didn't get the disadvantage combo that I wanted. And this fight just ends up dragging out because of this, right? She jumps across the way. I've only got access to him. This is basically like, she's kiting me. I now have to use my bonus action to jump away, which means I'll incur a opportunity attack, rather than pushing him and letting the booming blade happen. And again, we're back to base with her, and it's time to prevent her from being able to move. The booming blade does the rest, and we should be good. Yep. Then we're going to go open our mind to the tadpole and get tadpole number 2. The first one we picked up from just behind Nettie. We also grabbed the broken shaft because that's going to combine with the spearhead into the vision of the absolute, which we will use to absolutely obliterate the spectator. We're not looking to fight the owlbears just yet, so here's where we're going to go raspberry hunting. Like I said, I pick up the raspberries, even though I don't actually ever use them. And we should have a conversation here with Scratch, and we want to make sure to have Scratch and send him to our camp. Now, technically, we plan on killing the Night Song, so we don't need Scratch to enact 2, but most builds make sure that Scratch at the very least survives and is a buddy, so that he can use the help action to free Dame Aelin in that fight, rather than keeping you required to do that, because none of the other companions have the help action. You can't use a shovel or an imp or anything like that. We go across, we're going to get this ring, the Smuggler's Ring, for the Sleight of Hand proficiency. We jump all the way over here to the, the Harper's history, right? I think if you pass the history check, you get a little bit of XP. But we're just here for, essentially XP and what potential things that they might have acquired. Nothing crazy, so we're going to go back. Here is a point. I think we're going to go back and we're going to recruit Karlach. This is sort of like a point of reference. Like, I am sort of committing. When I recruit Karlach, I am committing to not resting, which is a silly thing since I already. This is probably another mistake, right? Because I already had to use my Illithid power. I should long rest before I get to Karlach so that I don't. If I'm going to sacrifice her. And in this run, I sacrifice her. But if you're not going to sacrifice her, pick her up here and you're fine, right? She'll have her blowout scene with Will on your next long rest, no matter what, right? Like, it takes precedence. It doesn't take precedence if you move too far beyond it, which can happen. However, because I met her, and I plan to sacrifice her, and I already used my Illithid power in order to save Shadowheart on the Nautiloid, and I haven't long rested since. I no longer have the option to Illithid Persuade for Fezzik, or getting into the Goblin camp, or gaining entrance into the Goblin camp on the inside. None of that. Here we want her Minor Illusion, or Mirror Image, Scroll, and anything else is good. And we're going to do our typical Warlock Pact Blade shenanigans to acquire that and all our gold. But yeah, so like with if you want the Infernal Robes, you have to sacrifice Karlach. Now, interestingly enough, if you recruit Karlach and you get you long rest and get the scene where her and Will sort of like are having it out, If they console their differences, it does not matter how Karlach dies after that. Will get his like pact broken thing from Zora later. But if you have not long rested, you don't get that scene, even though you've recruited Karlach and will simultaneously. If you then sacrifice Karlach to Bual, it triggers as a Bual murder, right? Like it's a murder for Bual, and she can't be resurrected, etc. However, it does allow her to count towards Will's quest, so he can then get his infernal probes. So that's what I end up doing here. What it does require is that I don't long rest, right? I can't, because I've done this companion setup and recruited her early. I am not allowed to long rest until after I've gotten all 4 things. Because now, if I long rest right now, it will trigger the Karlach and Will scene. If Karlach is dead, then it should trigger the Mizora scene, but it won't, because you'll already be in the Underdark. It'll trigger the and I've already got 2 Illithid things. It would trigger my Illithid second long rest, which gives you the ability to access to consume them and open your mind to them. And since we're trying to glitch the tadpoles, the space gummies, by putting them inside of a container, we need to, we want to maximize that. We're going to get 4 gummies first. So we have to get Priestess Guts gummy, and we have to get Noel Flynn's gummy, and unfortunately those fights are a bit more difficult. So we're looking for, to be somewhere around level 4-ish, maybe level 5, so that we have a decent level of capability to survive those fights, right, and get through those fights before we long rest. So in the future, if you're looking at this thinking like it's okay, we're gonna follow this, don't talk to Karlach. I would not talk to Karlach. I would get through the Blighted Village. I'd go. You don't have, I would have, if you did not have to use yours for the Illithid ship and you used Lazels, or you're doing it full solo and you didn't use yours because you don't need to, then I would save it for getting through the Goblin Perimeter Guard, because that is a much harder persuasion check. Then I would save the rest of this. I would talk to these guys fine, right? You get really good intimidation options as an orc. I would talk to Fezzerk and do that. If you're on a character that's not charisma based, those checks can be even harder. So I would probably, if I was on a monk or something like that, I would likely want to save my Illithid persuasion. I'd want to make sure that I persuade Fezzerk so that I don't fight Fezzerk, because he can do some big damage with that very heavy Great Axe. He can one-shot you. And he also has a bomb in his inventory, and there's no real way to steal the bomb out of his inventory unless you somehow have access to darkness or darkness arrow already. Like we do, but we don't have the ability to see out of it. It'd be just a pain, right? And you'd start combat, right? There's all these different reasons why, but overall, right, Fezzerk is probably the most dangerous fight there. The Goblin Perimeters, I would just start the fight. I would take the fight, kill the War Drum so they can't call anybody, and have them sort of attrition fight them and kill them with the gloves of defense that we have. Not bracers of defense, but the range defense where we get to catch arrows. That would be my ticket there. So as a blueprint, this is probably a little bit wrong. It's fine if you want to keep Karlach. If you want to keep Karlach, get her as early as you can. Enjoy, right? But if you're trying to maximize, and I specifically have a charisma-based character, so in theory I could save Will's dad, and then you can like pickpocket his sword and push your charisma up to like 24 or 26. So you could maybe do those things and push it. I'm not sure what the total maximum is, but since we're a persuasion character, we can pass some of these checks fairly easily without issue, and then save it for later. And then we want to sacrifice Karlach so that we have Will's father available for potential builds later. We don't use it, but it's a thing that we could do. Here we're doing some prep, just prepping these boxes, and we don't actually want this fight here, right? I'm prepping sort of for it just in case, which is actually really, really smart, because I think this fight does turn out to happen, because I'm stupid when I hit the mirror. But all we're really doing here is prepping for later, right? We come back and clean these guys up when we're at a better power level. If I'm on a Blade Singer or something like that, I just do them here, right, with Cloud of Daggers. Right, like I said, that combo is silly. But since I don't have Cloud of Daggers, Paladin's basically got 0 AoE. All he's here to basically do is set up the thing and wait till he has a higher power level, right? More defense, more capacity, and like more attacks per or more gear just in general to be able to deal with these guys. Like you can see, we don't have a protection of good and evil on, which we should, right? We don't have a whole bunch of things on. And we set them up there. They're all ready to go, right? Now all we need to do is pass the mirror. But here, you can hear me clicking in the background, and I'm right-clicking to push the narration forward. But for some reason, in some of the scenes or conversation pieces, like if you're right-clicking to spam, it will force you into, or it'll force pick an option. This also happens pretty often for me with like Gek Cole talking to Gek, and you're like, oh, you have a conversation with Gek, and then you're right-clicking, and all of a sudden, like, you've chosen some option that you didn't even see. So because of that, we had that conversation. That fireball was eventually going to pop these coffins, so this fight had to happen. I wanted to get the fire down, and then I wanted to break the coffins. I don't have an alchemist fire yet. So you got to break the coffins with a fire arrow, which then means that I'm now in combat and I don't have any way out of combat. And so now I'm just in this fight that I basically was not prepared for. Luckily, we do have access to Shield of Faith. We are going to, I guess you would call this buffer the Shield of Faith, as long as we're not the last in the turn order. We can use anything, like any spell, and then during the animation of while it's being applied to our character, we hit spacebar to end our turn. That will cause it to be somebody else's turn when the animation finally finishes, which means that it wasn't quote-unquote casted on our turn, it was casted on somebody else's turn, so it doesn't use our spell slot. This is a way for us to sort of like extend our spell slots, etc. One of the reasons that I'm okay with this particular glitch is it can be abused, for sure. You could smite every turn, stuff like that. But one of the reasons I'm okay with this glitch is because spell slots aren't a finite resource anyway. If you want to be able to smite on every turn, right? Or you want to be able to utilize all of your resources every time, right? Like, let's say you were gonna, pop your Oath of Vengeance, right? And do a vow of enmity on yourself, right? And you could do that for every fight, right? But all you'd have to do is go back to Withers and respec. Since respec exists in the game, right? You just run back to Withers, you respec. Respecking at Withers is free because you can infinitely pickpocket him without him being mad. So you get your gold back, you respec, you get your gold back, you respec, you get your gold back, and every time you respec, you get the full breadth of your class abilities. So we could have an oath charge anytime we want. Now, popping it multiple times in a fight, that's sort of when you get into the territory of like, is this glitch now just sort of like pushing? But most fights aren't lasting longer than 10 turns. It also makes it so that we sort of optimize around it, being able to do it during fight, like mid-fight. And because we're doing that, it makes some of the fights harder. Because I have to, expect it to be in the middle of the fight that I'm casting it, right? Rather than pre-casting it with my bonus action. Now here, I got hit with the Arrow of Hail Mater, which means I can't heal. I'm not doing good on health. I'm missing my attacks. I am in, like, run mode. Even with, I think I have Shield of Faith up, so, like, 21 AC. And they are just crushing me. I have a blunt weapon. I can do blunt damage. If I get a hold of them, it's a one-shot. But anytime you have a fight that doesn't have the proper prep and you're in solo, it's less than optimal if we're calling it what it is. There we waited out the Omater and we're able to heal. Now the fight's back on. Still running around with like 21 AC. We catch our booming blade on somebody, which is good. Now we sort of want to reposition closer so we can attack of opportunity when he runs, but we didn't quite make it. Didn't have enough movement. This other guy, if he runs away from us, he dies to our booming blade anyway, or we're pretty sure he does. So contemplations. Yep. Went ahead and murdered that one. And now we're baiting them back to us. We're sort of using this as like a little choke point hallway. Ouchie. Yep, now we just impose some disadvantage on some archers. Go ahead and give some guys the old 1-2-1-2. Hopefully, he runs away from us and provides us with the attack of opportunity, so that we just more efficiently get rid of these guys. The fire's not helping. Shovel is also not helping, but we're just trying to keep him alive.
Still breathing, despite everything.
I don't know why these guys are taking so long on their turn. It's kind of an annoying bug that happens. These guys are like stuck on top of each other. They can't figure out how to move around each other, so they're stuck there. Yay, we finally get to move again. Alright, let's go ahead and kill this guy. Booming blade. I don't think the booming blade actually does enough, but we can't weaponize our bonus action, and we don't have a secondary attack yet. So kind of is what it is. He should move. Yeah, it didn't quite kill him, so we got to go back and finish that off. Meanwhile, these guys, like I said, are stuck on top of each other, but at least their turns are going by faster this time. And the fire dropped. So, woohoo. This guy dies, and now it is just cleanup. Because that thing is sort of like sticking on top of them and not moving, we'll go ahead and just spam with the ranged attacks. Oh, we went home. Thank goodness. Alright, so now this should just be, you know, dip your thing in fire and ranged attack it up. Ironically, we hit a plethora of skellies, not always the one we want. One of them jumps or walks in front of the other. Not good. And now for the back and forth. Your turn, you don't move. My turn, I shoot you. It wouldn't really change much. They don't have a lot of hit rate. But it would be faster if they were closer. I decided to continue to range them and wait for the ground to go sort of like off demon time. Oh, we missed again. And then there, right, like we have raspberries, but I healed with a potion anyway. That one goes down. We're ready for this one. Attack of opportunity ready. And done. Not really a whole lot to loot. We'd be looking for like the necrotic or Ilmater bow or arrows and fire arrows. Those are also an option.
You remember stories of Zastam?
You won't tell me. Why not act if you could see?
We want we are an ally. He's a foul creature, and then it cleans a wound, and then I search for. I would look for power. If we do those to get rid of this parasite, that means freedom, which means power, etc., etc. That's the combo to get in. We read the medical journal that was on the table in the first room, next to the elixir of poison and the suspicious healing potion that is actually basically like poison in a bottle. Reading that book allows us to do the clean a wound with extra dialogue where it says like I read it in a journal, right? It's clean a wound. Just sort of like makes it easier to have that option. And then we loot the braces of defense. Not because we need them, but because we're greedy. I don't think I have ever not looted them since my first playthrough as a monk, when I found out that they existed.
The book is. You can sense something dark about this.
We pull the book all the way out. I don't know why I picked it up like that, right? You can just right-click pick it up without doing the reading and stuff like that, but it is what it is. And then we fast travel out to the Blighted Village. Unfortunately, because we had the skeletons fight, that took an exceptionally large amount of time, so we didn't quite get to the Goblin Village like I wanted to inside of our little hour time frame or so. However, we will be getting there and then doing the early parts of the Goblin Camp and sort of like maximizing that to, I believe we get level 4 out of that before we've even gone down to the Underdark. Where we should be pushing to level 5. So we should basically get to level 5 without any issues. But hope the content is enjoyable. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, then I should see you in the next one.